OECTA. No, it was not a swear word. OECTA, the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association. They've got a conference coming up where they thrash Israel, they promote homosexuality, pay enormous amounts of your money to invite leftist speakers. They're not Catholic, they're not really teachers either, most of the leaders. Our very own Chris Sims joins us from Ottawa. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now, we should get some background here because most people watching would have no real idea. Catholic schools, publicly funded Catholic schools in this country, here come the letters of complaint. The vast majority are indifferent to Catholicism. Often they are very hostile. And this teachers' union is anti-Catholic. The resolutions, you can see if you read them, not only a boycott of Israel, sanctions against Israel, at a time when up to 30,000 Arabs have now been murdered by their own people in the region. Not a word about that. They say we must promote gay-straight alliances. This is a resolution. And then they tell a downright lie. They say this is in keeping with the words of the bishops. That's exactly not what the bishop said. And they have Linda McQuaig speaking. I like Linda, but what does Linda charge for a speech? It must be 10 grand or something like that. And some Labour leader as well. Chris, what is going on?
I was going to ask you that same thing, Michael, because you told me in a book that Catholics were right, but apparently they're quite left. No, really, I was looking through the agenda of the upcoming annual general meeting of the Ontario Catholic Teachers Union, or their federation or whatever. I was actually surprised because I don't have a child in Catholic school. I was surprised to see how left of center they are. And of course, Linda McQuaig, very well-known author and journalist, she was a big supporter of the Occupy movement. She uses terms like 99%. And right in the preamble here, they're talking about financial elites and the common good and solidarity. So I was surprised to see this. I thought there was something a little bit more conservative about Catholic teachers.
Well, I mean, Catholic teachers are very much part of the elite. They're earning $70,000, $80,000 a year. They get 2 or 3 months holiday. They get sick days. I know the Catholic system well. I'm married into a family that has many teachers in it. There are some fine teachers involved, but there aren't many fine Catholics. Look, probably 80% of so-called Catholic teachers are divorced, living together, gay, contracepting, aborting, never at Mass, dislike the church. They might be quite good teachers, but have the courage to teach in the public system.
Now, a lot of people like to put their children in Catholic school even if they're not Catholic, and I was interested to see this, that it's boiling down to the teachers as well. In the Catholic prayer that apparently that they do, they don't want to say Catholic teachers anymore.
No.
They want to change that to teachers in Catholic schools. So my question is, what's really Catholic about this anymore? As somebody who just went through the public school system, I'm honestly wondering what the difference is now between the public school teachers that are publicly funded and the Catholic school teachers that are publicly funded.
Well, to a large extent, when it comes to the unions, the Catholic one is more radical. I mean, they really have opposed the church teaching, the papacy for years now. And if you look at them, the biographies of the executive, they've all been involved in some of the higher reaches of Canadian Labour, which again is entirely up to them. You're not coal miners, you're not steel workers, you're teachers. You teach children in a very privileged atmosphere, Catholic education, then you go home, then you go for long summer holidays. I'm not teacher bashing here, but sometimes it's almost like a running joke. They honestly believe they're storming the barricades in 1917.
That's what it sounds like as well. And also, did you see this one resolution where they say they won't allow any sort of pension reform anywhere worldwide? How do they have access to all of that? I'm really curious. And I'm a daughter of a labor organizer. I get unions, but This was surprising to me by how outright political it was. Is this like this every single year when they have these speakers? Yeah,
it really is like this every year. They had Stephen Lewis in and various others who've really been very anti-church. And there is also a huge degree of self-importance. I mean, I can imagine that Netanyahu is having a cabinet meeting because, a bunch of mediocre teachers in Ontario who are vaguely Catholic or have Irish names say, we should really put sanctions on your state. So, self-importance, unintentional humour, radicalism. Most Catholic teachers are not involved directly in the union. However, they do have an influence because if these things are passed, they have to be implemented.
It's true, and they also, I noticed that they increased their fees by $60, and that's something that, as a member of a union, it's not optional. If you're a Catholic teacher, a teacher in a Catholic school, you would have to be a member of this union, whether or not they represent your political views or not. And I have to stress, this isn't sort of a liberalish middle of the road. They're full on using terms like 99%, financial elite, and solidarity, which are decidedly left-wing issues.
Yeah. Well, the boycott of sanctions against Israel, boycott of Israel, I understand this has now become one of the sacraments of the sort of satanic socialist left. But there's a whiff of racism about this, because while Arabs are being slaughtered in the street, probably 10,000 now in Syria alone, that they single out the one state in the region where people have basic human rights, Israel, for particular boycott and sanction. Now, I don't believe this is anti-Semitism. There may be one or two there. It's just, once again, very naive, callow, shallow anti-Americanism. They can't get the Americans, so they go after the Jews, who they think are closely allied to. But it does. I mean, it stinks, frankly. It's repugnant. And the history of the church since the war has been to understand Jewish aspirations and the aspirations of Jewish nationalism, Jewish state, not these idiots.
It seems to me, especially with issues like the Israeli sanctions and sanctions against Israel, rather, is that this isn't so much a Catholic thing. It really struck me as an academic thing.
Yeah.
Because I know on college campuses, university campuses, Apartheid Week isn't about commemorating what happened in South Africa. It's what they call the apartheid of Palestinians.
Yeah.
And it's very popular. I mean, it lasts all week. They're in major common areas, booths set up everywhere, bumper stickers, T-shirts, you name it. So I think they're getting their influence there from kind of the seed ponds of academia rather than on high from the Catholic Church.
Yes, they are. And again, to people who aren't very familiar with Catholic education, I would give a separate system in Ontario, the one I know best, probably 10 years, maybe 15, because serious Catholics are saying we're not going to send our kids there anymore. They teach their children at home to be good Catholics. There's very little defense for it. You speak to, even bishops will say, is it worth going to the wall for this? Because we're not allowed in. They're not teaching Catholicism. Those serious Catholic teachers in the Catholic system are marginalized, sometimes even persecuted. So it should be a fun conference, though, Chris. I think I might go along and see what I can achieve.
I'm surprised you haven't been invited to speak, Michael.
Change of climate. Hell would have to freeze over before they invited a serious Catholic to speak. Thank you, as ever. You take care.
Thank you.